Hello everyone, my name is Swani Jung and I'm in group 13 with Saurabh Agrawal. Our visualization project is about creating a dashboard that enables users to find out the relationships between World Happiness Index, several social factors, and alcohol consumption. We became interested in world happiness after talking about having experienced a great decrease in the quality of life and being less happy than before due to COVID. We also witnessed many friends uploading posts of themselves drinking alcohol more often than pre-COVID on the social media. So we decided to find out if there is a relationship between world happiness and alcohol consumption as well. I'd like to briefly explain about the data sets we used and their attributes. We used the World Happiness data set and World Alcohol Consumption data set. First, World Happiness Report is published annually by the United Nations, and this data set consists of 9 attributes and includes data points of years from 2005 to 2020. Life ladder, the attributes can be found in the parallel coordinate plot right on the bottom. First of all, life ladder you can see over here. Is the quality of a respondent's life on a 0 to 10 scale, also known as a happiness index. Log GDP per capita over here is a very well-known economic measure per country. And social support right over here indicates whether a respondent has relatives or friends to count on for help when in trouble. Healthy life expectancy at birth right over here is a health measure from the WHO. Freedom to make life choices over here means whether the respondents are happy with their freedom to choose what to do with their lives. Generosity right over here is an attribute whose value is estimated based on whether a respondent donated money to a charity in the past month. Perceptions of corruptions right over here is based on whether the respondent thinks corruption is widespread throughout the government or business in the country. We can also see the positive and negative effects in the pie chart right over here. The positive effect is an average of happiness, laughter, and enjoyment experienced the previous day by the respondent, and the negative effect is an average of worry, sadness, and anger. Another data set that we use is the World Alcohol Consumption data set. It consists of consumptions of alcohol in liter per capita, and it includes data points of years from 2005 to 2018, and there are five attributes. All alcohols, beer, wine, spirits, and other alcohols. We derived a merged dataset by performing inner join of the two datasets on the year and country name. Now I'll briefly explain the functionality of the plots and our dashboard. The map in the top middle here, is a choropleth map where each country is colored with different intensity according to their life ladder or happiness scores. When a user clicks any country, all other plots will be updated with respect to the data points of that country. The scatter plot here on the top left shows points of each country with respect to the attributes for the X and Y axes. And we added a brushing and linking feature so that when it is brushed and the other plots are updated. Also, if the mouse hovers over any one point, the plot shows the tooltip with the name of that country and its X and Y values. The bar chart on the top right visualizes the beer, wine, spirits, and other alcohols consumption for all countries or selected countries. This chart is updated by the user interactions on the scatter plot or the choropleth map. It also shows the tooltip of each bar when the mouse is hover over each of them. The pie chart on the bottom left gives a ratio of the positive and negative effects. And like the bar chart, This chart is updated by the interactions on the scatter plot and the map. The parallel coordinate plot on the um, bottom center visualizes the correlations between each attribute, and the lines in this plotter is selected for the points selected by brushing in the scatter plot or the country selected in the map. The PCP itself also has a brushing and linking feature and the attribute dragging feature. The line chart on the bottom right visualizes the changes in the values for each attribute. The users can select multiple attributes in the drop-down and find out whether all the values of the attributes move along with those of other attributes. Yeah, these are also normalized to have values between 0 and 1. Last but not least, we added two interesting features, the ear slider and the two different color schemes. First, because our data set includes data points from 2005 to 2020, the users can move the slider to see the change in the values over time, like this. Yeah. In addition, the color switch right over here, enables the users to view the countries on Earth as a whole or by their continents. Now I'll toss it to my project partner, Sarab, for our hypotheses and findings.
Yeah, thanks a lot for setting up the context, Vani. I will talk about the hypothesis and their validations and the verifications using the interactions on the plots. So we made three hypotheses which we thought would be interesting to know. The first hypothesis was that the countries in the same continent will have similar ladder or the happiness scores. We found that this hypothesis corresponds to reality by looking at this scatter plot. So let's choose y-axis as life ladder score as well, and enable this continent-wise coloring. So we see that like all the blue points uh, are together and all the green points are together, which means that if we like select this on the PCP, you see that the European countries are together. Like the values for life ladder score is similar, and for the African countries here, uh, it's 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 the same case. So also we can use the PCP for the verification if we filter out European and African countries like this. We can see that all the European countries have life ladder scores closer to each other, and similar is the case for the African countries. Also, by using this slider, we can traverse in time. Let me switch back to the world, and let's focus on the happiest country and the least happy country. So by traversing in time, we can see that like the happiest country belongs to Europe mostly, and the least happy country belongs to Africa. So we can also conclude from this hypothesis that European countries tend to be happier than African countries. One exception for this hypothesis is that there is high variance in life ladder scores for Asian countries. So if you look at the scatter plot, you can see that for the life ladder score, the pink points, which are the Asian countries, are scattered throughout this uh, x-axis. So this is one of the interesting exceptions for this hypothesis. When talking about happiness, the first thing that pops up in mind is money, which gave us the idea of the second hypothesis, which is GDP, social support, and healthy life expectancy at birth are the highest contributing attributes to happiness. So we can verify this by interacting with the parallel coordinate plot. If we bring these attributes close together, uh, like life ladder is here, GDP is here. Let's bring this attribute here and this attribute here. Yeah. And uh, if we filter out the happiest countries like this, we can clearly see that the highest scores for these three attributes, like the GDP, the healthy life expectancy, and social support, have the highest scores. We can also verify this by using the scatter plot. Scatter plot. Let's change it. Yeah, it's already log GDP per capita. You can see a linear trend among life ladder and GDP per capita. And if we switch to social support, it is also kind of linear correlation. And same is the case with healthy life expectancy at birth. So using this discovery, the least happy countries could figure out ways to improve their happiness scores by finding out how to enhance themselves with respect to these three attributes. So for example, to increase GDP per capita, one can focus more on education and then a paid job. This will increase the income and therefore increase the GDP per capita. So there's an exception that we found, which we thought was interesting. Let's click on USA and here let's select life ladder as the attribute and and the GDP. So this is the life ladder line and this is the log GDP per capita. So as here you can see that though the GDP per capita is increasing from years 2015 to 2020, the life ladder score is being decreasing. So this is one of the interesting exceptions that we found for this hypothesis. So the third hypothesis is that as happiness decreases, the alcohol consumption increases. And this was the main reason for integrating the world happiness dataset with the alcohol consumption dataset. If we look at the scatter plot and change the y-axis to all alcohol, we can, and if we filter the countries having highest uh, alcohol consumption, in the PCP we see that mostly these are the European countries. And we have already revealed as part of first hypothesis that the European countries are the happiest, tend to be happier. Let's reset it. Yeah. Also, we can filter on European and African countries and like see that the alcohol consumption for the European countries is greater than that of the African countries. So this rejects our hypothesis, and we found this quite surprising. We found some interesting exceptions for this. Few countries with life ladder scores above average barely consume alcohol. Example, uh, this is the Indonesia. As you can see, the alcohol consumption is very less, though its life ladder score is above average. Another example is Pakistan, and same is the case with Turkey. Uh, we are highly convinced that this this is because these countries have Muslim dominated population and Muslims are restricted to consume alcohol by religion. Similarly, we also found that few countries like uh, Portugal, as you can see, it has the highest wine consumption. Another example is France. And yeah, so countries like this have wine production. Countries like this have a greater amount of wine consumption. This is because wine production has been part of their culture since a long time. So these were the three hypotheses. Besides the verification of our hypothesis, we found few more interesting findings. First, the sum of life ladder score for all the countries drop in 2020. So let me switch it back to life ladder and select all countries. Yeah, as you can see, like in 2020, there's a drop in the life ladder score, and this the main reason for this could be the COVID-19 pandemic. Another finding is that there's a negative correlation between perception of corruption and the happiness, which is life ladder score. Yeah. So you can see that the countries having least uh, perception for corruption tend to be much happier. And as the perception for corruption increases, the life ladder score decreases. So we think that there are more factors that are needed to be considered, like culture, religion, tradition, etc. While estimating the happiness scores for each country, we would like to do a follow-up research on that. We intend to make use of machine learning and train a model which can suggest the least happy countries ways to increase their happiness. So this was our project work, and thanks a lot for watching.